Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. It's true that Jonathan Kuminga signed a new contract with the Warriors, but the player's name continued to be involved in future negotiations and a possible trade with the Chicago Bulls. The Golden State Warriors off-season edition of ex-Boston Celtics center and 2024 NBA champion Al Horford introduced yet another high-IQ veteran presence to the team's experienced rotation. Golden State's four-time NBA champion Stephen Curry, six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler and 2017 Defensive Player of the Year Draymond Green were supplied with a fantastic playmaker and consistent three-point shooter at the center position. But recent reports have indicated that the franchise's general manager Mike Dunleavy might aim to swing a deal for a player with similar qualities. According to Bleacher Report's Andy Bailey, Golden State could make it their mission to acquire an accomplished 6'10" offensive threat and two-time All-Star big man from the Chicago Bulls by dealing 23-year-old high-flying wing Jonathan Kuminga in the process. The Golden State Warriors may have added Al Horford this offseason, but they're still one of the smallest teams in the league, Bailey wrote Thursday. And the Chicago Bulls have a veteran center who could supercharge their second unit. Nikola Vucevic is a floor spacer and ball mover whose offensive game would fit right into the Warriors system. And sharing the floor with players like Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green or Gary Payton II could go a long way toward hiding his defensive flaws. Making a mid-season move to bring in a versatile force like Vucevic would make perfect sense for Golden State in an effort to bolster their dynamic offense. In 73 appearances for the Bulls this past season, the 34-year-old scoring center averaged 18.5 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 3.5 assists while knocking down 40.2% of his 4.4 attempts from three-point range and accruing a 61.1% true shooting percentage. Vucevic's 2024-25 campaign with Chicago was a resurgent one, and his incredibly efficient year did plenty to increase his stock on the trade market. While a deal for the Swiss center has yet to materialize, there are certainly plenty of contending teams that can make use of his skill set. The former number 16 overall pick in the 2011 NBA draft is also an underrated passer, making a potential connection with Curry and Butler all the more tempting for Golden State's front office. Golden State would likely be forced to relinquish key pieces such as Moses Moody or Buddy Hield to get a deal across the finish line, but the sacrifice could be worthwhile, especially if Vucevic's efficiency figures carry over into the 2025-26 season. Brandon Podziemski, Warriors unable to mount second-half comeback in 126-116 loss to Lakers. Brandon Podziemski was unable to lead a shorthanded Golden State Warriors past Austin Reeves and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Golden State Warriors 126, 1116, handing the Dubs their first loss of the preseason. Neither squad had their top talents in the lineup, with Draymond Green the lone all-star on either squad who took the court. Still, the Lakers came out on top in the preseason battle of shorthanded rivals. Brandon Podziemski was hesitant looking for his own shot early, putting more pressure on Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green to initiate the offensive action. Without Steph Curry's elite gravity to aid Green, his offensive, Kuminga had some positive flashes. He finished the game with 6 assists, and had some other good passes that his teammates failed to convert. As a scorer, Kuminga racked up 13 points on 5-for-8 shooting from the field, including a made three, some strong moments posting up smaller defenders, and a highlight dunk of the preseason. However, he also had 5 turnovers, including some unforced errors, and failed to record a single rebound. Without Curry tiring the Lakers on defense or the defensive acumen of Jimmy Butler and Al Horford, the Warriors' defense was abysmal. Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and DeAndre Ayton scored a combined 50 points on 19-for-28 shooting from the field. Reeves had no problem scoring on either Buddy Hield or Podziemski. If there's one area the Dubs could still use an upgrade, even when healthy, it's defensively on the perimeter. Without a strong shooting first half from either Buddy Hield or Quinton Post, the Warriors were trounced by the Lakers in the first 2 quarters and trailed 63-46 at the half. Podziemski began to show signs of life late in the second quarter, however, and that would carry over into the third, when the Dubs began turning things around. Podziemski came out aggressive in the second half. His scoring burst and shooting confidence led to the most impressive offensive stretch of the day from the Warriors. As the Lakers' defense began bending to Podziemski, it left shooters, like Post, wide-open opportunities. It also lessened the creation load on Kuminga and allowed him to play with a more controlled aggression. Latest video from SB Nation. Pods finished with a game-high 23 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds on 10-4-16 shooting from the field in 25 minutes of action. He unsurprisingly had a Warriors' best +6+-. Golden State would eventually cut the Lakers' lead down to 3 points, and kept within striking distance for much of the second half. However, the Dubs were unable to make a final push with both teams deploying lineups effectively representing their third and fourth teams in the final quarter. LJ Cryer was once again an offensive spark, scoring 11 points on 4 for 7 shooting, 3-4-5 from 3, in 10 minutes, but he would not lead a miracle comeback. Among the remaining Warriors, Tracy Jackson-Davis had the most impressive final stat line, recording 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 assist, and 1 steal in 20 minutes of action on 7-4-9 shooting from the field. Jimmy Butler emphasizes why it's important for him to help Stephen Curry and Draymond Green win a 5th championship. One of the biggest moves at last year's NBA trade deadline was the trade that sent Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat to the Golden State Warriors. It may not have shocked the league in the way that the Luka Doncic-Anthony Davis deal did, but as far as on-court results go, even that blockbuster wasn't as impactful as the one that made Butler a Warrior. Golden State rolled off a 23-8 record after adding Butler, catapulting themselves from tied for 10th in the West into the 7th seed. They won the play-in, then took out the second-seeded Rockets in the first round before injuries caught up to them and they were taken out by the Timberwolves. Butler was a great fit alongside Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, and with an entire offseason to improve their chemistry even more, optimism is high that the Warriors can do even more damage if they can stay healthy. Butler sat down for an interview with Korath Burke of NBC Sports Bay Area, and he spoke about what it would mean to win a ring, something he's been close to doing twice before after carrying the Heat to the finals. Interestingly, though, he made it less about him and more about how meaningful it would be to help Steph and Draymond get another one. "It would mean the world to me," he said, "but it would mean the world to me if they won. They've already solidified themselves in the Basketball Hall of Fame and in the league, we get that, but to separate themselves from other individuals, you get 5, you're there. No doubting, can't question it, you can't say who was on your team, you've done it with multiple different types of players and rosters. You get 5, nobody's questioning anything about anybody that got 5. Butler's attitude is a complete 180 from where it was around this time last year, and his fight with the Heat and team president Pat Riley dragged on month after excruciating month. He had to make things work on the fly with the Warriors, but he was so happy to have a new lease on life that the trade turned out to be a great one, both for him personally and for the team. When the trade was consummated, Butler signed a 2-year, $111 million extension to keep him with the Warriors, and he's obviously committed to making it work. Playing on the same team as Steph Curry tends to do that to people, and while people are right to talk about the defending champion Thunder and the revamped Nuggets as serious contenders, they should also be talking about the Warriors, too. The Warriors have a winning collection of players in Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy, and they only added to that by signing Al Horford away from the Celtics. This is a high IQ team that prioritizes winning above all else. If they can stay healthy, the rest of the league better watch out. Warriors predicted to bench skilled 6'5" rookie, NCAA champion for extended period. It would make sense for the Golden State Warriors to keep their core pieces on the floor at all times heading into a pivotal 2025-26 campaign, but their newest draftees could be at risk of missing out on crucial professional experience as a result. The Warriors' aging trio of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green are competing for at least one more NBA championship victory before the 37-year-old Curry rides off into the sunset, and a recent update has indicated that the team's coaching staff will continue to rely heavily upon the 4-time champion at the expense of a few new rookies. While this might be the preferred strategy in the present, it's plausible to wonder when Golden State's next generation will get their time to shine. There was a time this offseason, 2 weeks ago, where it looked like Alex Tui, the number 52 overall pick, and Will Richard, number 56, may have to fill rotation spots due to a lack of bodies with the Golden State Warriors, Bleacher Report's Greg Swartz wrote Saturday. With Jonathan Kuminga now under contract and veterans like Al Horford, Seth Curry, Gary Payton II and DeAnthony Melton able to sign, both rookies will need to wait their turns. Tui will at least begin the season on a two-way contract while Richard has the best chance at early playing time thanks to his championship experience at Florida. If all goes right and this elderly Warriors roster is able to stay on the court, however, neither rookie will get much run in 2025-26. Though there's good reason for the Warriors' young pieces to miss considerable time in 2025-26 by way of DNP coaches' decisions, their carefully selected 2025 draft picks were brought onto the roster due in large part to their heightened experience level. For one, Golden State's number 56 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, Will Richard, is a four-year collegiate star coming off of a national championship victory with the University of Florida, and a national championship game in which he led the Gators in scoring with 18 points against the University of Houston. Richard is an extremely polished 6'5" shooting guard ready to assume an immediate role within Golden State's lineup, and the Warriors even displayed their evident trust in the second-round pick by handing him a four-year, $8.6 million contract this summer. In 40 appearances for Florida in the 2024-25 regular season, Richard boasted career-high marks of 13.3 points and 1.7 steals while compiling an impressive 59.2% effective field goal percentage. As for Alex Tui, the Canberra, Australian native's experience comes from several seasons of professional basketball in the NBL, where he starred for the Sydney Kings over the course of 2 seasons. From 2023 to 2025, the 21-year-old Tui averaged 9.3 points, 3.9 rebounds, 1.0 steals and 0.7 blocks. Eventually, this led to the Warriors selecting the 6'8" power forward with their number 52 overall selection in the 2025 NBA draft. Sure, Curry and company will be the Warriors' most relied upon contributors if the franchise wishes to capture its 8th NBA title, but that does mean their 2 recent selections can't make an impact in a limited role. Steve Kerr refuses to confirm whether hugely important player will start for Warriors after Al Horford arrival. The Golden State Warriors' offseason grade has completely changed after the arrival of Al Horford in free agency. The Warriors were the last NBA team to complete a deal, but after Horford's signing was confirmed, they added Seth Curry and DeAnthony Melton. Having also re-signed Jonathan Kuminga, Pat Spencer, and Gary Payton II this summer, Steve Kerr now has a strong bench to call upon. Golden State have already played in 3 preseason games and only have 2 remaining, so Kerr's rotation for the opening regular season game should be almost set. However, the Warriors head coach has refused to confirm whether one key player will be in the starting lineup next week. Steve Kerr unsure of Brandon Podziemski's place in starting 5. Brandon Podziemski impressed in his first 2 seasons with the Warriors, averaging around 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. The 22-year-old will now be expected to take a leap in his 3rd year with the team, perhaps upping his offensive output to 15 ppg. Podziemski started in the Warriors' latest preseason game against the Los Angeles Lakers and scored 23 points, suggesting that he has earned a full-time place in the starting lineup. Steve Kerr praised the shooting guard in his post-game press conference, but did not say whether his role will be a starter or a 6th man this season. "I can't say that yet. We've got to see where we are. Brandon's going to play a ton. He's a hugely important player for us," Kerr said. "But the starting lineup frankly is a little tricky for us, given the pieces and AL's age. If Al were a little younger, he'd be in the starting lineup for sure. But if he's playing limited minutes, it's tough for him to start and finish a game if he's not playing as many minutes as he would a few years ago. So, we still have a lot to think about. But Brandon is going to be a huge part for us, one way or another." Steve Kerr has several starting lineup options. The Golden State Warriors have 3 guaranteed starters: Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. Steve Kerr would probably like to add Al Horford's name to that list, but the 39-year-old will need to be managed carefully throughout the season. If Horford does not start, Tracy Jackson-Davis or Quinton Post could play instead, or Green could play as a small ball 5, with Jonathan Kuminga as the 4. Elsewhere, either Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski will be vying for the vacant shooting guard position next to Curry. Having plenty of options is a good problem to have, but Kerr will have his work cut out to settle on his starting 5 and bench unit in the coming days.